Live.
Not what though.
Watch now.
We're live now, mate. Really? You want me to put this on?
We're live. Can I come over there then?
Yeah, you can come over here, mate. Now.
Yep. We're getting our act together here. So I call the meeting to order. My new attitude adjuster. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We're in my workshop here in Perth. I have a group around. I can't see what you're seeing. Marcus is just very kindly showing us what's going on here. So we can see. Okay, so we can see where we're at here.
We can see Marcus.
You can see Marcus, he disappeared. It's a bit slow on, is it?
On my computer,
Takes a bit of time. Am I going to talk slower? Or,
Well, there's not actually anybody. Oh, there's 6 watching now. Yeah. Let me
Jim's out of
what do you
shot.
need?
just make sure we're still
You're not even
recording.
in shot there, Jim.
This looks like it is recording.
No, we'll pull everybody in a minute.
Yeah. Well, we've got 6 watching at the minute.
Go for it, yeah. Yeah, I'll sneak this chair into that guy.
Let's work. Yeah, that's looking good. Now we've got Max.
Want to pull in.
Shuffle over Max.
Closer. Yeah, there we
Okay, we're live.
I think so.
We're running.
go. There is
G'day,
a lot
Steve.
of delay.
Sorry.
Stephen Lang says hello, Bruce.
Hello, Steve. Thanks for the email the other day. I responded to that one, or your response to what I'd put up. It was great to catch up with you in the bash, and as usual, great time. So, basically we're starting off with a peanuts and single malt coming out of Perth. I've got a group here. I've got Jim Zastrow. I've got Max over here. He's a neighbour of mine. We've got Greg. We've got Gert van der Berger over here. He's hiding. No, we can't see him. There he is. And we've got Marcus pulling the strings behind the cameras and everything else. So welcome to the channel.
Dan
I'll
says
go
hello.
through. Sorry.
Dan Dobbs says big hello.
Hi, Dan.
G'day, Dan.
Dan, hang around because we got something special here for you. We'll be so very quickly before we move on to the main theme. We had a fantastic time at the bash, and the Black Books were very kind to produce a special run of this book. It was a large print. Now it's a number 3, but this one was made specially for the bash, and it was numbered from 1 to 250, and those all have a high, whatever you call it here, stuck in there with the number. This particular book is number 216, and that was given to me by the Black Books, and the list of all the YouTube creators who were at the bash at the time. And so from 221 down to 233 were presented to us. The rest were bought by people, and they nominated who they wanted to sign their book. And so we had a grand signing, and we would have seen that on the broadcast we had from the bash. At any rate, they've now been they've gone out and delivered. So Dan Dobbs missed out, and he asked us to arrange for him to get one of these books signed by the group here, which we'll be doing shortly. Dan, that's that's the cover of your book, and we'll be signing it, and then I'll be sending the cover, the front and back covers, I'll be sending them to the States, and they'll be fitted onto one of these books, so you've got a very special one coming your way. Jim has come 9,500 miles to spend a couple of weeks with us here, and I'm really happy, very pleased to have him here. He's been slaving away in the workshop a bit. He's fallen in love with the Australian Hare and Forbes booklet with all the different machines, and he's also fallen in love with this particular tool, mainly because of the serrations, that he hadn't seen one like that.
Point of order,
Vertex.
point of order, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Why are we talking miles in Australia?
Talking miles in Australia. And so he and most of our people out there will answer. Anyway, going back to the bash, we were given these little magnets. They're beautifully made by Inspirational Metalworks, and they're available on his channel, www.inspirationalmetalworks.com. They are very, very good because you can clamp them down and they don't get covered in furry stuff when you go to take them off. Very strong. Nice. So I need to support Tom Zlickman, who is the man. I also presented at the bash.
We've got a hello from Ohio, Metalworks Machine Shop.
Oh, hi. Hello. Hi, thanks for joining us.
G'day, Doug.
Yeah, so I presented the second in the series of my gear indicators. This is the metric one, the module one, and they're available on my website or also through the black books. You can buy them if you're in the US or Great Britain. You go onto the Black Books website, and in the section for tooling and instruments, you'll be able to find these and you can order them.
Hello from Greg Koenig.
Hi, Greg.
Tamworth, Australia.
Thanks for joining us. I bought a few little things here for our locals. It's the Hotshot 360s, which Stan Zinkowski from Barzy Industrial manufactures. They're very, very small, nice little heat treatment groups, and you can find those on his website as well. So the boys will get one of those, and of course also my True Line 8 stickers. At the bash, I was fortunate enough to win this box of the burrs from Noga, another one of our sponsors from Israel, and they've sponsored us now for 4 or 5 years at the bash, and we really, really appreciate their sponsorship. Another item we had was from Keith Fenner, and this was specially made. Hell freezes over for the bash. A very nice bottle opener. And I think that's about it. There's a couple of other things. I've got some abrasives here that I bought at the bash. They're 600 by Boroid Engineering abrasives, and each of the guys here are going to get one of those. And another item is this index block, and it's imperial from number 264 up to ½ inch 13, and that's a place here for a drill and a tap. So, and that was given to me by Dale Derry. So thanks very much, Dale. And lastly, from the bash, is this item. This is a hardness tester, it's a mobile one, and it simply works by introducing a pin through the hole here. That's the driver pin.
G-clamp.
And where you can change the anvils here to different shaped anvils, and you can also use it. You take this section out, the driver section out, and and put it down in the holder, the wrong way around, wrong way, go back, and you can drive it. Where are we? Here we are. And we drive it down. We'll get it right in a minute. There we go. And we can drive that down with a blow until the pin that's introduced through the side here breaks. The moment that's broken, that's your hardness impression, and then we have a little scope here that can measure the brittle hardness. Once again, thanks very much to Dale Derry for that wonderful piece of machinery that he donated to me. Okay, so we're now coming to the section that we've set up for today, and that is what's in your box. It's a revisit 2019. Keith Fenner was started in 2013 by presenting what's in your box. 2014 it developed, and what we as a group asked to do was to get the people that thought that they were worthy of a box with the tools to present themselves on camera to the wider community to judge.
Howdy from Everett's Workshop and Randy Richards.
Hi, thanks for joining us. So what transpired from there was this what's in the box galloped along, and in 2014 this very young lad who started his own business in the shed in with his parents, he presented himself amongst others, and Jim, we'll call him Jim or Toby, we called him Toby at the time, but Jim won one of the boxes, and he lives in Maryland, and also Crispin Cousins. Crispin, consequent to that, began working for Rolls-Royce, and there was a girl, what was her name?
Annie Lewis.
Annie Lewis, and she also, those were the three recipients, and from there it escalated over time, and in 2017, young Greg here was one of 5, I think it was 5 or 6 boxes that were presented, so over here in Perth, and if I'm not mistaken, you're the only one in Australia that actually...
That year, I think.
No,
Emma
Emma.
got one the previous.
Emma got one previous year.
Yeah, that's a previous year.
But this year, Adam Carmichael.
Adam
Adam
Carmichael,
Carmichael,
yeah.
that's right, Adam
Yeah.
Carmichael from, I think, and Adam is a guy that I had dealings with First Robotics, as he's one of the people in First Robotics in Sydney. So then there was Jim and a group of others, and 2017 I think was the last, because it just got too big. It was too hard to manage and very difficult for a lot of time was taken by Keith. Unfortunately, Keith had to work hard on that.
I think, Max, did you nominate this year as well?
No, he put in for
No.
no, it was a different.
I was an entrant in 2016.
Max,
No, I can't. I'm too overqualified for that.
Oh, yeah.
Max was separate to that. We'll come to that one. So Keith had to send these boxes all over the world, and I said to him, "Don't send the box to Australia. I don't want you to take on yourself that great cost. Send it to Stan Zinkowski at Barzee in Rancho Cucamonga. I've got other things for some of these other guys here, for Marcus and for Gert, and we'll amalgamate it all, and Stan will then crate it up and send it to us," which he did. And he sent it to Melbourne through a friend of mine, and then from there we sent it over to Perth, because we're on the west coast. He sent it over from the east coast, and we had a grand opening of that, and amongst the things that happened there, we're taking the boxes out, there was a present from Stan to me, a bucket, and of course, I couldn't recollect that I'd actually, amongst my things, there was this bucket. Anyway, I opened the bucket, and of course, it was a huge punk by by Stan. Every year, it's a question of who's first.
Yeah, we'll put a link to that video as a card up above, so if you're wanting to see that later on, we'll link
Okay,
back to
we'll
that.
put a link up to that. So what we want to do now really is I want to hand over to Jim, and to let Jim tell you what it meant to him to receive the box, and where he is now after 5 years since he wants that box and its contents. And I'm happy to say some of the contents has come from my way, including metric stuff.
Yeah, a couple of metrics sales.
So it's up to you. Talk to the camera and the people who are out there listening to you.
Well, I mean, if anyone has any questions, that's probably
I've asked out for questions, haven't been
probably
there
a
yet.
good
but-
time for them. I think really one of the best things I have to say is that it was keeping going with machining and you know, really just keeping with it over the years that led me to being able to afford coming here. I'm here on money that I earned machining using my tools that I keep in the box and some of the tools I got with the box, and that allowed me to come all the way around the world, which is really cool, and I'm very fortunate because this has been a really good experience.
What's your favourite tool that you got in the box?
Oh gosh, I actually I really like. It's funny because I got this actually 2 years ago at the Bash. I won James Kilroy's measurement competition, and I got the really nice Mitutoyo 0-to-1 mic, and it's one of the ones with the high the steep thread, so that it moves a lot quicker, and it's a really nice tool, and I enjoy using it.
You picking up any bad habits yet that all us older machinists have?
Bad habits. Let me think.
Buying and selling milling machines.
Yeah.
I've got a classic. I do my diameters and imperial, and my lengths and metric.
Really?
That's not a bad habit, that's a good habit.
I
That
think
keeps
it's a
you in
bad
practice.
Yeah.
Randy says Jim needs a hat.
Needs a hat.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, right. Well,
Oh, no, no.
you can't see that that Marcus is also not wearing a hat. There we go.
Safety first.
I didn't see it. Oh, there we go.
So far, Marcus has just been Thing from the Addams Family. Yeah. Yeah.
So, well, we'll move over to Greg for the moment. We'll come back there. So, Greg, we won't go into all your background of all of the smackings you got from your parents and whatever, but you're basically a mechanical guy.
Yeah, I did my time as a mechanic. That's what I am by trade. And back then we had to learn a bit about machining and felt fitting and machining, and we had to do a bit of welding and bits and pieces. So it gave me a pretty diverse background, and a reasonably unusual skill set in today's environment. I don't criticise today's guys by any means, but I don't think the system does them any favours nowadays.
Yeah, that's a given, isn't it? It seems to be the problem that most of the Western world is suffering from.
You need to be able to swap this box for that box and unbolt this thing and bolt that thing on.
Yeah, nowadays it's all about units of competence. I'm competent to tighten up a bolt, or I'm competent to change a tyre, and that's what a guy walks out with the qualification in. I'm competent in this, this and this. But back when us older guys, it's probably not a good way of putting it, but back when I did my time, there was no such thing as being competent in doing this or competent in doing that. You were competent in everything, or you weren't competent.
Well, if we did it wrong, we got a slap in the head or a kick up the backside. We can't do that to the young blokes
Yeah,
these
that's
days,
it.
you know?
Yeah, everything you did was actions and consequences. If you did what was expected, well, then you didn't get your ass kicked. and if you got it wrong, which was still expected, you got your ass kicked.
John Priest
So-
says hi.
Hi
And
there.
Randy says talk up louder.
Who?
Randy says talk up louder.
Randy. Okay. Is that better?
Yeah, well, it might have been me that was a bit quiet there, eh? But winning the What's in Your Box competition, it changed my direction a little bit. Still not there where I want to be, but what I did was I was predominantly working out on mine sites doing shutdown maintenance, which I'm still doing a bit of. But I've got fairly heavily into the broken bolts and stud removal, and a few snapped off easy outs with a bit of guidance from a great mentor here. Bit of help, throws me into the deep end.
Absolutely, and I'm very pleased that a younger bloke can go crawling in underneath leaking trucks and things like that, and bust his fingers, and so he's taken it on with a passion, and I think that's that was a box of easy broken outs in the toolbox you got.
Yeah, there was a practice kit in there. Something to snap off and practice with, yeah.
So that's a question as well. Is in that box, if you can remember what was in the box, and it's in the video there. There's such a huge amount of things that these guys got with great generosity from not just the YouTube creators group, but the wider community were very, very generous in what they gave to a fantastic extent. Notwithstanding Keith Fenner's contribution, his brainchild, his contribution to that was extraordinary.
Oh, absolutely, and the amount of time and effort, like just looking at it from after I received the stuff, and that was only a fraction of what Keith was doing. The generosity of what Keith and Vanessa, and everyone seems to overlook Vanessa, but I've got no doubt that she was a significant part in the background. What they contributed, and just the sheer monetary expense of getting stuff to Australia. Well, not just Australia, but all over the world where they were sending the stuff. That was just incredible. Very, very generous.
So I think while we're here, also we talk to Max. Max is also a mechanical guy, but he's got this little shop with some that he does his machining work, his own. I think it probably started off with motorbikes. So that
Just knocking around with a few motorbike bits, and then just created part of the little shed, was just purely machine shop, and then built a small machine shop, and then now I've got to expand because I can't fit my machines in, so just about to start on the new workshop out on the property, just on the outskirts of town. So bits of that I'll post in my videos on my channel. So hopefully that will grow. This new shop.
What is your channel, Max?
Max Grant Swan Valley Machine Shop. And
that's
YouTube.
Max Grant Swan Valley Machine Shop.
What did you say? Couldn't hear you, Bruce.
But most of my episodes comes under Swarf and Chips episode, whatever, blah blah blah. So, but it's a new channel. I only started it earlier on this year, and it's slowly growing. So, hopefully things will keep moving.
Not to forget that Max recently won Emma's toolmaking competition.
Oh,
That's
Project-
what I was alluding to, and
Project X.
it's
that's the tool for aligning for tramming the head on the milling machine, and I used it actually the other day to tram the head on mine, and the easiest head tram I've ever had to do in my life.
That's
It's done.
a brilliant piece of engineering
Yeah.
from out of our little workshop.
Yeah.
Randy's got a question for Jim. What type of machining have you been doing? CNC, manual, production?
Okay, so lately it has been maybe 75% CNC. I still do a fair amount of manual, but mostly working on the CNC mill.
Why?
Money. It's what pays more. At least where I am and the work that I get. You know, every job that I can, since you know, I do a fair amount of small production. So like 10s, 20s, 50s, maybe 100. But even in a small production quantity, I'm almost always making more if I'm running the CNC, because it's just faster. And usually I'm bidding my production stuff per piece rather than hourly. So,
Cool.
yeah.
And so what machinery are you using for that?
Oh, in my shop, right now I have the Toolmaking 1100, hardened DV9, DV59 turret lathe, which I do a lot of work on, and that's manual. And then just regular lathe, Bridgeport, and besides that, just support equipment at the moment. I had 2 big horizontal mills, but I ended up selling them primarily because of space restrictions. I really filled up the workshop, and there wasn't.
Build a bigger shop.
Yeah, that wasn't in the budget. I sold machines instead, unfortunately.
So one of the K2, if we wind back a couple of years, it's one of the K2s that the Jim bought. He had a problem with the horizontal shaft. It had come in and it was all rusted and seized and that was and he asked me at the time he asked for help how to get that nut off. It was and that was I made a video that was called how not to go nuts about your nuts. And Toby's dilemma. That's that video. You can see that.
Yep.
Yeah, and you see that, and I showed how he could go ahead and get that nut off. That he tried all sorts of different systems, and it worked, didn't it?
Oh yeah, yeah. That was a.
It was the shock system.
Yeah. That worked great.
It works.
Never done that before, and it worked.
And
What, like the first time?
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Hi to Max from Randy. Project X was an awesome build from Everett.
Oh yeah,
And
thanks guys.
Steve wants to congratulate Max for winning the contest.
Yeah, thanks.
Randy's saying cool with the DVM59, that's what he has. And then Metalworks Machine Shop says, hey Max, how's the new shop coming along?
Oh, very slowly. I'm just still doing the driveway at the moment. Got a few more semi-loads of road base to put down, and waiting for my slack surveyor to do some survey work, and then hopefully we'll be into the concrete works later on this year, and all the steel work. Well, I'll do that myself, and hopefully that will start later on this year too. So.
Have you figured out where the SIP's going?
I'll have plenty of room. I'll have plenty of room.
I think we can introduce also Gert. You come round a bit.
Hey guys.
Come over here.
Come in
I'll
the
move a
shop.
bit closer to the. No, we can't see you yet.
Yeah, he said it's just in picture.
So
Yeah,
Gert,
that's it.
Gert is a he came over from New South Wales about 18 months ago.
Yeah, about
Something like about 18 months
And
ago.
we don't hold that against him.
No,
too
we won't
much.
hold that against him. He was working over there, and he decided he wanted to come on this side of on the Paradise side of Australia. So we're very we check everybody that comes this way, because there's only 2 million of us on this side. There's 22 million on the other side. So we balance it with good quality rather than quantity. So Gert has been brought into our community here, and in the time that he's been here, he's managed to build himself a new house on a property, and we've also managed to move a few machines in. He's bought a couple of machines. Gert's background is electronics. He's done some work in here, and it's been featured on some of the work that we've done, especially on the drill mill.
Link below.
Sorry?
Link below.
Yeah, link below. And so, yeah, Gert, you tell us a little bit about where you are today and what the machining's come into a Sparky.
Yeah, look, from my perspective, it's sort of a break from all the electronics and software that I'm sort of used to. It is quite a different field. Sometimes it's a bit harder for me to get into, but it is quite a difference for me, and it does give you a feel of how can I explain this, that the mundane of what I'm used to. So some people would say, yeah, but electronics is quite different from what they're doing, and they don't really understand it. But it's like any other profession. So if you do electronics day in, day out, you quite get bored of it, I would say. But for me to do this more of as a hobby, it does provide me a different mindset, and I do like it. And the community here is actually well perceived, and I do like the community here. Yes.
And the weather.
No, it's freaking cold here. As you see, I'm
all
covered up.
Hashtag Perth Winter. It was
We can,
25 degrees,
At least we
clear
don't-
sky,
at least we don't
blue
get snow
sunshine.
and ice
This
and
is-
sleet.
It's still cold.
It's still cold.
It's still cold.
with they all whinge and bitch over here about the winter, but it's
It's a
20
dry
degrees in
winter,
the
isn't it?
daytime, 9 degrees at night.
It's a dry heat.
It's a dry heat. It's all right.
Yeah,
But-
and by the way, that's centigrade, not Fahrenheit. It's not 20 degrees Fahrenheit. Oh,
No,
Yeah.
we don't see 20 degrees Fahrenheit.
thank God.
Yes, that's it. We don't see it.
So John's got a question. Are you planning an Antikythera version of the gear gauge? Metric, Imperial, Ancient Greek?
I have other tools that I wanted that I want to develop, and but it's one thing at a time. I can't develop them if I don't sell them or sell other things and do work. So I'm turned 70, so I've got to take my pace has slowed down a little bit. I'm down to about 14-hour days rather than the others that I used to work. But
Maybe Bruce.
it takes time to develop it. Marcus here has been a great help to me on that, and I must thank him for that.
If you're turning 70, maybe you should consider a CNC, to repeat production
A CNC version of the
of the turning job.
I'm thinking of making a left-hand thread gauge.
Out of aluminum.
No, I don't think so.
Maybe out of cheese.
Probably aluminium, eh?
But I do have. It's true. I have quite a few R&D projects in my swag that I want to develop over time. So that I see that as my way forward, and mentoring. That's the big thing. I've picked up a few things over the years, and I like to hand them over. on this as well, I think we can say that Marcus here, who's out of the picture, he can move into it. He has a channel quite prolific. It's got JB in Oz.
From Oz.
From Oz.
JB
No, he's
from
in Oz. He's in Oz. He's not from Oz.
Where's the big hammer?
He's in Oz.
Yeah.
From Oz, and so he's very diversified in what he does. He's with mechanical, electronics, computer systems, and so forth. So he's a big help to our community here with his great knowledge, and he likes to learn things all the time, and also working on old cars, and he got lots of rust buckets up on his farm there that maybe by the time he gets to my age, some of them will be running again.
And feeding all your habits for collecting machines.
Well, you know, we're all collectors out here, but some of them are just collectors and others are actually doers.
Yeah, Dad's not here to defend himself, Bruce. It's not fair to talk of the dearly departed.
Yeah, so we've got, and I think I'll be right in saying that Marcus and Greg have got the same lathe. One of their lathes is the same lathe.
Nah,
Me and Max.
they're
Very similar.
very similar.
Me and Max have got the
Yeah,
same.
we have the
Yeah, you
same-
two got
we
the
have
same lathe.
Partners
And
in
what was the
lathes,
one that you just bought?
I think the 336.
which is
Yeah,
the same as
360.
Troy.
That's a toy.
No,
But
same
we'll,
as Troy. Who's,
Yeah,
Troy,
that's Troy's,
Troy,
that's right.
Troy's not here, so.
Troy can't be here, he's on night shift somewhere.
No, he defend himself. Yeah.
And Marcus's dad, Mal, he's also unavailable. He's having a good time somewhere with his darling, and he deserves it. He's just recently retired for the second time.
Mhm.
So that's really our group here in Perth, yeah, we're very fortunate to be able to feed off each other and help each other out. It's a constant, and to have this young fellow in to come all the way from America specifically to be here is fantastic. And Marcus, have you got something to add to the conversation?
Well, I'll just slide over a little bit. Down here a bit.
Whoa!
That's
Oh, I can see the
that's
till
called-
is running.
That's called subtractive manufacturing. So, look, my introduction to this little group came when I entered What's in Your Box 2016, and of course I didn't know Bruce at that stage, and he'd put an entry in with Fred, who isn't here either. Fred has some very nice equipment, including a Douglas that I'm sure you've got your
The
video
nice big
eyes on.
DSG that I
Yeah.
found for him.
Mhm. And so I was an entrant, obviously the year that Emma won, Emma Ritson. So from that entry, really what I put in is more interesting than actually just winning a box, was actually becoming a part of a community. I had started my sort of time when I was
Would you
about
like to
15.
look at the camera so people can see you?
No.
Maybe take that horrible hat off.
It's hard to look up when I'm worried about falling backwards. I'm trying to steady myself. Alright.
One down here.
You got a different chair?
No, that's alright. Alright, so, yeah, 2016, I told some of my story, which was basically growing up. I found a little old red car in the garage at my folks' place, which was an Austin Healey Sprite that Mum and Dad had, or Dad had given Mum as a wedding present in '68. So part of what I first found out was that, you know, this was almost like Lego. It had a manual that showed you how to put things together, and if you could undo it, you could usually put it back together again. Also had my first experiences with how to read the torque correctly on a nut, that being turn it till it breaks and back it off a quarter turn. So once you've got those skills, the rest is gravy. Completed the restoration of that car in '89 and then drove across to Melbourne for the National Rally in Ballarat, where I was able to, well, very fortunate to meet Jeffrey Healey, who was the designer of the car back in '59. That's some 3,500 miles. Yes, I'll do the miles in in deference to our visitors. 3,500 miles, raining the whole way in a little old British sports car, leaked the whole way, and we hit an unsealed section of road somewhere in there, well, just past Norseman. So having this car absolutely beautiful, concourse condition, then driving across and having it so muddy, arriving a day late and $1 short, with all the various issues we had with the generator across the way, it was a bit of a drown rat sort of experience arriving. But I've got some sleep, and Dad spent the day cleaning the car up, and kind of came back up once Jeff and Margot sat and had breakfast with me, and that was just like an absolute blow away for me. I was very fortunate with the Austin Healey Club to meet a guy named Dave Cooper, who was my mentor, and Bruce talks about the importance of mentorship, and this really, for me, is exactly the sort of thing that means so much for myself. Dave has just had his 70th birthday. He's in a home, he's got Alzheimer's, and has been suffering with that for the last 10 or 12 years. Yeah. So I met Dave through the Austin Healey Club, and he came out from Zimbabwe, and he brought with him some Austin Healeys, and so me, a little 17-year-old kid driving his brand new car at the Austin Healey Rally, and Dave, a friendly bloke he was working on the mines, but when he would come back from the mines, we'd sort of catch up and say hello. And yeah, look, massive respect for the guy, and for anybody who will take their time to teach people. It's so important to making the difference in young people's lives. And really what I learned from Dave is you can make anything. He would tell me stories of racing around down in Zimbabwe there and blowing rod bearings and big ends and mains and stuff. Just going to the local junkyard and pulling an old engine apart and just hammering a white metal bearing into shape, scraping it to fit, and off you go again. And coming from the idea that you buy parts as opposed to making parts, this was a bit of a shock for me. That you could just make something work is exactly where I've grown so much of my strength from. You can't throw things away if you can fix them. I'm a really big fan of things like 3D printing, where you can take parts from nothing and fix things. I had a printer at work, a laser printer, which was broken, and the guys from the printer shop were saying, oh, we can't buy a gearbox for this, it's got to throw it away. Had a quick look, it was just a couple of nylon gears. I took it home that night, brought it back the next day with a printed set of gears and put those in, and the guy's like, shit, where'd you find those? And it's like, oh, I just printed it. It's like, oh.
The yellow box.
And like, we got another 50,000 prints out of that thing, no worries at all, instead of throwing away a $6,000 printer. So
Good.
it's really
Yellow rubbish bin, that's it.
it's really important to know that if you just approach things the right way, you can pretty much achieve anything. So that's really what mentorship for me is all about, and community. So in sort of bringing it back to what's in your box, I didn't win the competition, but I got something better. I got a connection to this community. And I followed up with Bruce a couple of months later, sort of saying, oh, g'day mate, you're in Perth somewhere. How are you doing? And he's like, oh, come and have a cup of coffee. I'm like, oh, whereabouts do you live? And he's like, oh, in Morley. I'm like, shit, I'm in Morley too. He's like, oh, whereabouts in Morley? He's like, oh, over near this park. And I'm like, I'm near the same park. It's like, well, I can hear you talking on the phone. Why don't you just put the phone down and start talking to me? And so essentially we're 3 streets apart, and have really been one of the things that's really turned my life around in the last 5 years is knowing this bloke. And
The request from Chris North.
g'day Chris. So yeah, look, more recently a call came out in a mini club, a mini drivers club that I'm a part of. The guy's got cancer, and his son jumped on and said, oh, can anybody, you know, anybody with a mini, my old man would really like to drive a mini before he dies. And I'm like, oh shit, you know, I've got an Austin Healey, do you want to drive that? And he's like, shit yeah. So I thought, yeah, that's great. And all the other guys are like, hey yeah, get him in the Austin Healey, drive around the corner, we'll have a paddock full of minis there for him, and just kind of make the day for him. And then I got home that night and my wife says, oh, you know that paint job on the car? It's like, yeah. Says, well, you got 2 weeks. Why don't you fix it up a bit? And I'm like, you shouldn't be, right? I'm just like, no. It's like, So on my channel, JBFromOZ, you'll currently see I'm about a week in. I managed to get the seats done. I've managed to knock out a few dents. Getting ready to do some paint today. I say tomorrow.
It's
Till last night this morning. So I've got a week left to get that painted and back together again. So hopefully I'll make it, and there'll be more footage on my channel about that. But no, I think it's important, as Gert mentioned, the community here, the people. It's what makes anything good, is having people to talk about it with, and things like Project Black Dog and all the sort of depressions and stuff like that.
Well, one of the things that this community has is me and my ute or my truck and its crane. They all seem to gravitate to me. Can you come and lift this? Can you shift that? So that's one of the bonds that we've got. Much to my detriment. But it's a great little tool, and it's really one of the things that I've over the years have decided to surround myself with units of lift and shift, and not to use the brute force that I used to use in my youth.
Are you calling me a unit?
Yes. So in my youth on Fridays in my shop, we used to lift a 50 kilo or a 100 weight anvil up above our heads. That was our practice every week. But I can't do that anymore, of course. I wouldn't be able to shift it on the floor. I'll tip it over.
Bad knees.
Sorry?
Just you can't pick it up because of the bad knees.
That's it, yeah. The bad knees and back and all the rest of it, and the mind says don't do it. So, and that's I think is also something that everybody in the community should embrace. Don't bust a gut, because the repair job's expensive. The time required for us to get back on our feet can be devastating, really. So more and more that I can lift that. No, I'm not going to lift it. I'm going to use some method to do that. From there, I think we've just about ready to wrap up. What I'm going to do now is Dan Dobbs. We're going to sign. All us guys here are going to sign the cover for your book, and then on tomorrow I'll be mailing that off to the US, and it will become a book like this for you. And we'll also be mailing out to you one of the gear gauges that you asked me for as well. And if anybody else is interested in these, my gear gauges, they're available. Yes, we've got hands up all around the room here, but they'll have to wait. So you can get them an email to me, brucegetterout, one word, @gmail.com, or on my website, Gemtrek, just gemtrek.com.au. They're available there, and also, as I said, anybody in North America or Great Britain can go to the website, and at the Black Book's website there's a section there for tools, and they can order my gauges. At the moment I'm selling them for $30 US each and $55 US for both of them plus postage. And also my other product, which is we're working on at the moment, all these parts, the Trueline 8 stabilizer for Rongfu and Rongfu derivatives around the world. We'll wrap it up. You got any bolts to take out today?
No, not today. But I've got some I've got to do tomorrow. Today's the day off because I only got back late last night. So I'm here early this morning.
But I'm very happy, very pleased with Greg's embrace the bolt extraction. So he's going to be add a few more pages to the snap-on sagas, etc.
The snap off,
yeah. The snap-offs. Don't we love the ones that we find a broken snap-on, easy out, and behind the easy out is a couple of drill bits and gone into the head or something.
It's always interesting about
The ingenuity of
the ingenuity of people. Yeah, I find it quite fascinating. And one thing about doing removing broken bolts and studs and snapped off easy outs, and particularly our best friend, the glow plug, is is that it's never boring. There is no such thing as a straightforward job when you're doing it. That's for sure. It's it keeps you mentally stimulated, would be a good way of putting it.
Well, yeah, well, I've always said that I'm forever discovering people with great talents. Dan, we're signing this for you, mate.
And for those of you that are watching that do watch my channel occasionally, there's a reason why I haven't been posting much lately, and that's simply because I've been so busy running around doing stuff. But hopefully there will be a bit on in the next couple of weeks.
And that's Greg Chester's The Shed.
The shed.
How's that shaper going, Greg? The last time I seen it, it was heading towards the door.
Yeah, well, it got out the door, it got back in the door.
Have you got wheel chocks for it yet, or you?
Yeah, no, it's it works a treat, but I haven't actually turned it on for about 3 months, unfortunately. But I'm and that's incidentally, that's the first time I ever met Marcus. Was
Yes.
was a Douglas shaper.
Yes. Very happy that one arrived at the workshop.
Yeah.
And, that was going backwards and forwards a little bit on X wheels as well.
Yeah, well, you used to have auto shut off on it.
Yeah.
When I got to the end of the power cord, it had shut off.
Very good. Yeah, something about shapers on wheels. Even the Zocca had wheels on it until Bruce chopped those off.
Yeah.
Well, we've got a green monster outside the door here that came for a visit from Marcus's dad, Mal, and so we've got that set up, and I think I'll put a video up of a bracket, angle bracket that I made up for it, and that's it was cleaned up here. Marcus and Mel came over. They spent a few weekends polishing it up to the nth degree, but Marcus forgot to put the filter in the oil tank. I'm just reminding him about that.
I didn't forget.
He didn't finish the job 100%.
I didn't forget.
But it's working very well, and whenever I've got to do some slotting, cut some keyways, I'm out there and making and operating it.
Yeah, so there's a playlist for that down in the doobly-doo.
It was quite funny when Marcus, I advertised the Douglas,
Yeah.
and it's for sale. And Marcus rings me up. He says, "Oh, I was just looking at this one on YouTube that this guy was doing, that he repaired and he rebuilt." And I was like, "Yeah, that's the one, mate." So he'd seen the full rebuild of it before he even saw the shaper.
Well, that's it.
The Douglas has made some beautiful little shapers, and there's many of them that came out. I used to have here an 18-inch Ormerod made in Great Britain. They make also vertical slotters, and they were that's what we had when we went to school. When I went to trade school, for the 2 years that I went to trade school till I was 14, then left school to work. But everybody had the shapers, and that's what we used. That was a shaper and a lathe and a file and a hammer and a chisel were our basic tools. And that's what, and a hacksaw. We mustn't forget a hacksaw.
Yeah, and a hammer. Hammer.
Nowadays,
Another
of course,
hammer.
shapers have come back. They've come back. A lot of people now are interested. Unfortunately, there's about a 10-year period there where they were just going to scrap.
They're hard to find one nowadays. I think that most of them went to scrap in not in the 1990s.
And I've missed a few times for getting a scrape of it, getting a shaper. But I've got this one outside here, and it looks like it's well, put it this way: it came down on wheels. I took the wheels off. It's on feet, so I don't think the wheels are ever going to go back underneath it.
Yeah, look, I think you made it non-mobile.
There's one thing I'll say about shapers, regardless of what everyone tries to tell you. There are some jobs that there is nothing better for than a shaper.
Yeah. Well, my entry into Emma's first toolmaking competition was a gear cutting attachment for the shaper.
Yeah,
Yeah.
correct. It's,
And-
Marcus is off camera, but he made that entry. That was the first year that Emma
Yes,
did a
yeah.
competition
Yeah.
together with his dad, and they made this apparatus for cutting a gear. They did a good job with it too.
Yeah,
It was,
and
it was
using
amazing.
using a rack form cutter, so just a 60-degree V cutter, and having that form the involute as it passes through the gear, and you get the most accurate
Because
shape.
You're
not gonna be able to
each
get-
pass of the cut, you're actually indexing it forward. So, and that created the thing. So, and then you flipped it over to do the other side of the envelope.
No, you just keep
No, you
running.
just went backwards.
Just keep running. So we run
It
a tooth,
forms the whole
Yeah,
so it
tooth in a
forms the
single
whole thing,
pass.
yeah.
so it's just an indexable tooth,
That's
and
right,
then
yeah.
so that forms the envelope.
So the Wilson family seem to have an aptitude to collecting stuff as well. His father has just recently. We were down there the other day, weren't we?
Yeah.
And he's got I don't know how many. I said 17 lathes. Well, I'm not quite sure how many he's got.
It'll be at least 8. It's the 2 Colchesters, the Chinese lathe, the SAG, the CVA, the Hercus, and
The
then
launch
sorry.
and the launch that you bought him
Oh
for his
yes,
birthday.
yes, the launch, and
But,
then probably
Marcus
2 or
bought him this little lathe,
8mm,
watchmaker's lathe,
yeah,
and with a myriad of tools that go with it.
yeah, and I think 3.
So how many's he
share
got?
lines,
What's
and,
the count
and 3
now?
share lines, so less than 10.
Less than 10.
Yeah.
Right, I stand corrected. Some of these just going to have to move on because you can't move in his shop.
Yeah.
So we've got all of those signatures here. You signed it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've all signed it. So, Dan, that's off. That'll be off tomorrow, and you'll receive that booklet in due course.
Fantastic, guys. Look, any last questions before there's a wrap up? The sun's almost shining.
Yep.
Sun's out.
Yeah. Just about time for that single malt.
Yeah, almost time for single. Oh, hot toddies at breakfast time. Well, thanks very much for watching, everybody, and we'll see you in the soup.
We got our outside screwball. Hello, Bruce.
Oh,
TPMRJ.
it was very
Last minute on the mention of the suds.
well, we're Chuck. We had a visit. It was Ian and I went down from Novato to visit Chuck and Joe Lind, and also at the same time Tom Lipton came down, and we had Chuck's very good friend Carl came over, and yes, we had a great time there, and Chuck showed us all these stickers that I left a few years ago around his workshop, that including underneath the seat of the toilet. And he wanted to know whether I had any more stickers. I said no, I'd run out. So he didn't get any that time, Chuck. But thanks very much for your. It was we had a great time over there, and we made that little video with sort of Tom and I and Howie wagging his tail. We put that on, or you put it on your tube. So hugs to Jolene and all the best for everything there, Chuck. And hello to Tim as well. Hopefully he's all healthy and that. So yep.
Yeah, Chuck says loves the stickers. Yeah. And also that you and Tom Lipton killed his viewership. Was that?
It was a pleasure.
Was that by turning him to stone? That sort of Gorgon stare? Rock and roll. All right, thanks, guys.
Okay, well, all the best, and happy Saturday night for those stateside, and Sunday is just dawning, and the stomach's growling, and time to go and grab some food.
The Church of Whitham.
Rotate back.
Verdict stuff.
It's good stuff. Yeah,
So-
it's
Good on
really
you.
good.
It is. You know, people go, oh, it's made in bloody Taiwan.